Hi there boys and girls, Brucey here with a little review of the Boss MS3 after a few months of using it in the heat of the moment at gigs and doing some recordings with it, and this is my feedback so far. First of all, simply it is an amazing unit. It has made life so much easier, and it solved so many of the tap dancing problems that I had over the years of trying to switch on and off multiple pedals at the same time. Obviously that's what switches are for, I know that, but the way that this works is so intuitive and so easy once you get your head around it. I understand how Boss work. I've grown up with Boss products and Roland products, so maybe it was a little bit easier for me. I have been doing a couple of tutorial videos on it for those who maybe not so initiated in the process, but it is really easy and there is so much power and flexibility. Maybe you do need to sit down with a little bit of pen and paper sometimes and figure out what it is you want switched on at the same time and how you want to assign that to certain pedals, but once you've got that down, it is quite easy to program, and if you've got the online editor, it makes it even easier to program. One of my simple thought is this is definitely staying on the board. I love it as a switcher. That's without going into the effects. You know, I will be keeping this to use as a switcher regardless if I do decide that I want to put some other effects on there. And on the whole, the effects within the MS3 are really great. You do have to dig in a little bit. They do require a little bit of work and a little bit of tweaking to get the best out of them, but there are some amazing sounds in there and there's some amazing effects in there. If I'm being blatantly honest, I'm a little bit, the reverbs aren't fantastic. You know, here I have my bog standard reverb, this is just the bog standard reverb from within the MS3. Nothing offensive, it's just there to give a little bit of body and depth and dimensionality to the sound, but it's not a stunt reverb. It's not a reverb that I would feature in a song. I have played around with the reverbs on there, but I haven't been able to again fully get anything which sounds like my Polara drive. So I'm sticking that on the board for the time being, but that's not the end of the world. You know, this was a relatively cheap unit and reverb is a relatively difficult thing to program. Maybe Boss will develop it in the future. It's not terrible, don't get me wrong, it's completely usable and I could use this just by itself quite easily and quite happily, but when you've got the flexibility and the option, I can just stick in the Polara drive when I want to use it. For a reverb that I want as a sound, there is a difference there. Again, this is the reverb that I just use for some dimensionality to my sound, and that's all fine and good, and that's just coming out of the Boss. The delays are great, and if you've ever watched my channel, you know I'm a real delay lover. I would have liked more flexibility on the delays, if I'm completely honest. I can get by with what I need to do here, but I do miss the flexibility of my Strymon timeline. I do miss even the flexibility of something like the flashback delay, which I might stick on there. That said, you know, those units cost about, well, one costs a lot more than this unit put together, and the other costs about, you know, a third of this unit put together. It's not the end of the world, and as you can see, I've got a lot more space now, so I could easily stick in a delay pedal if it was bothering me that much. But to be honest, I've messed around and I've got a nice tape sound, which I'm happy with. That's kept me reasonably happy. I'm not a big modulation lover, so I do like the Univibe. I have been using the Univibe, and the Univibe is probably one of the modulation effects that I do like. I don't particularly like the chorus effect, but don't take that as any form of indictment against the MS3, because on the whole I just don't like chorus I can't really get on with chorus. I do like it. I obviously like it on Andy Summers' sound, but I just can't ever replicate that sound, and it doesn't really. The surprise in this are some of the other kind of more esoteric sounds, like the S-bend, the overtone. The overtone is really interesting, and I've had a lot of fun with playing that. The ring modulator for producing bass sounds, I did a little video on that as well, and that's really fantastic, and that's one of my sounds that I am using quite a lot now. Pitch shifting, man, I'm probably going to stick to putting my POG back on if I'm doing any pitch shifting. That requires either polyphony or actually tracking accuracy. Not overly in love with the pitch shifter on here. The harmonizer isn't too bad. Again, something that I probably wouldn't use too much. The wah pedals, I'm going to do a little separate video on the wah pedals. Not amazing, but you could certainly get away with it. As you can see, I've got my Vox, trusty Vox wah here. I just haven't been able to set it up to mimic the characteristics of that the way I like, so it's easier just to stick the wah on. But again, remember, I'm using this as a switching system primarily to make my life easier, and it certainly has. What are the biggest disappointments with the Boss MS3 that I've had so far? Now, please do take this with a little bit of a pinch of salt. This is an amazing unit. It's a fantastic unit, but I just wish there were a couple of additional things which would just make it supersonic. Let me adjust the camera in here, and hopefully I can show you a little bit more about what I'm talking about. I just wish when you go into your edit mode here, you could rearrange. Let me make that a little bit darker. I wish the loops weren't fixed. I kind of hope that Boss might fix this in an update, but I'm guessing they'll put it out as another product. But if you want to do that, they want you to upgrade to the ES8 or the ES5, which is obviously more expensive, but they don't have the effects in it. It's a real shame. I can probably understand why Boss do it, but it's a real shame that you can't even split them. Maybe you have to preserve the order. I could get that if that was a financial consideration, but just being able to maybe, I've got my Polara on loop 3 here. I don't really want it before the delay. I want to insert the delay before it, but I'm unable to do that. So I have to set up a patch where the delay is before, but then that means it's before the distortion as well, which I don't want. So that's quite annoying. So that is my biggest disappointment, that you can't split the loops and move the loops around. Hopefully, praying that Boss might be able, listening, and might offer a firmware update where you might be able to do that. The other thing, and again, it just relates to the loop function, is it would be nice if there was a level control on the loops as well, so that you could adjust the level either going into your pedal or coming back from your pedal, because you might want to match it differently with different parameters. Obviously, you could go to the actual pedal itself and turn the level up and down on the pedal, but to me, you might want to just set it to a level for a boost and then actually just have the level coming in slightly lower, and being able to do that would be an amazing addition to the MS3. That is it really. So not a lot to complain about at all really, just that it's all about the loops. But as I said before, I can see an argument to why Boss maybe went that way, and they want you to upgrade to the more powerful ES5, which is a dedicated switching unit, which is, as opposed to switches, maybe a taster into switching, something to whet your appetite. But it's got the great idea of having, effects on there, effects that for me, some of them you just use once or twice, like the Univibe. It's great that I can have it there and use it if I need to use it, but I don't need to use it all the time, and it doesn't warrant having its own pedal, and the sound is good enough that I can get by just using this. So overall, a couple of little disappointments about the MS3, but they are completely and utterly outweighed by the general positivity and the general magic and effects that I've been able to achieve using this unit, and how it's made playing gigs easier, how it's made setting up for gigs easier. It's been a real revelation. For me, switching is the way forward, never looking back again. It works really well with my atomic amplifier. I can throw it into a small bag should I need to, and actually, I could take this and do a gig quite easily. I didn't mention before that You know, the drive sounds on here are pretty cool. The Tube Screamer needs a bit of a shout out as well. Love the Tube Screamer. The natural overdrive for me works fantastically well, as does the Rat. Surprisingly, the Rat is a really good type for your kind of metally sounds. So you can get by completely, and actually with those two as well, they sound great. And I would probably pick the natural overdrive if I wanted a drive sound anyway. I've got a lovely pedal. I want to stick that pedal. I love the way the pedal works. The pedal works fantastically well. It was designed to work with a switcher as well, so you can stack things. So I am extremely happy, as you can tell. I hope you found that useful. I've been Brucey. I will probably do another 6-month follow-up to see where we are with this. If you've got any questions, please do let me know, and I will catch you later.